I sent a copy to Francisco to send to everybody. Did you get that?
Yes, I sent her and Russian translated too.
Okay,
Now she have English version and Russian too.
good. Svetlana, let's try just a little bit of the Heart Sutra and see if I'm going too fast. The Exalted One, the Lady of Conquest, the Sutra on the Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom. I bow first to all enlightened beings and to every warrior saint. Once I heard this teaching. Is that a good pace? Yeah, okay. Hi. I have no idea how to pronounce your first name.
It can be just Ross.
Ross, okay.
Yes. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Where are you? You're in Moscow?
I'm from Slovakia originally.
Oh,
Yes,
I've
Slovakia.
I've always wanted to travel there. I don't know that I'll get there, but I've heard the Dalmatian coast is really beautiful.
Can you repeat?
The Dalmatian coast is really beautiful.
It's different because you are probably talking about Croatia or
Oh,
Slovenia, but
Oh.
I'm from Slovakia. Slovakia.
sorry. Yeah,
Okay, no problem.
don't mean
But
to.
it's not that far.
Hope I
It's
didn't
not that
insult
far.
you.
No.
Well, it looks like everybody's waiting for 10 o'clock. Maybe it's going to be a small class. Do we really only have one student? I guess everybody's taking the class from my wife. Well, there we go. Hi. Well, let's wait a few more minutes. I'd like to start class on time, but no one knows that until now. So we'll wait a few more minutes, then we'll introduce ourselves and get on with class. Looks like everybody's taking the class from my wife. Oh, well. Well, let's start introducing ourselves. So go ahead and turn your microphones on. And let's start with Cornelia. Cornelia, can you tell me where you are and if you've taken any classes from ACI or have this is your introduction to Buddhism?
Hello. Sorry, my English is not very good. What was the question?
Have you been taking Buddhist classes before? Is this your first class?
No, ACI 8 I've
Okay,
made.
okay, good. Okay, how about Dinara? Where are you located and have you taken any ACI courses?
Hi. Hello, Venerable Sumati, and hi all. I'm located in Toronto, in Canada, and this is my sixth or fifth ACI course.
Okay. Chris, how about you?
Unmute. Yeah, I've taken quite a few classes. I don't finish very many, but I've
Well, we'll
taken
have to
many, many classes.
we'll fix that. Okay. Maria, where are you? Well, Chris, where are you located?
I'm in Santa Cruz, California.
Santa Cruz, okay. Maria,
Hi. Yeah, I'm also in California in the Valley, Silicon Valley, Santa Clara.
Wow.
And I've taken 5, 6, 7, and 8. Taking 8 right now, actually, with Tim. And I have only 7 completed with exam. So I decided, I thought I need to start from 1 since it's offered.
Okay, well,
Yeah, so complete all 12.
you've covered quite a bit of the territory already, I guess. Ross, how about you? Is this your first class?
Well, actually, I attended some ACI classes, but I also just listened to them, but I didn't take them in a proper way, like with all the homeworks and exams. So now I'm really looking forward to start all the classes, like from the scratch, from ACI 1
Good.
up to, I really do believe up to ACI 18 at least. And
Good.
thank you for this beautiful opportunity.
Well, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's see who else we got here on the screen. Anastasia, I don't see you. There you are. Hi. Where are you located and have you taken any ACI courses?
Добрый день всем. Я из России, из города Санкт-Петербурга. И Да, я прошла несколько курсов и хочу, так сказать, еще раз пройти базовые, так сказать, первые курсы ECI.
She from St. Petersburg, and she takes several courses, and now she wants to take this course.
Good, good. Okay, Mike. We're just introducing everybody. Where are you located?
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm from Baltimore.
I see you have a NASA shirt on.
Yep.
All
It
right.
says it is rocket science.
I've got a funny story about that, but I'll tell that to you later. Okay, who's left here? I'm looking through all the, I think we have Vio. I don't have any idea how to pronounce it. Viorel? Is that Viorel? Viorel?
It's good also VRL and VRL.
Okay.
VRL is native sound. Romania.
Romania. Wow.
Romania.
I've been to Romania, very, very small amount, like just a day, but it was a beautiful part of the world. Natalia, where are you from?
Hi, I'm originally from Bulgaria. I live in US now.
What part of the US?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas. Wow, it's a little warm there, I bet. It's going to be 110 here.
All month long, yes. It's here to stay.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm happy to have everybody here. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a plant biochemist by training. I did research science for 23 years before retiring to help set up Diamond Mountain. And I write, as a hobby, I write books on nuclear weapon systems. So it's quite a different from Buddhism, but it's what keeps me engaged. I do want to let you all know I have Parkinson's. So if you see me shaking, and I do have a tremor, and that's just part of life. What else? I did help set up Diamond Mountain. My lovely wife and I lived at Diamond Mountain from its beginning up till 2014. I was involved in setting up the water system for the retreat center. And we lived there for a while after the 3-year retreat. We both did the 3-year retreat. So that's my connection. I have no idea Svetlana, how do I pronounce that? Katrina?
Yes, Katrina.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Katrina?
Hello. Nice to see you. I live in Russia. I'm learning ACI and DCI.
Okay. Kathy, how about you? Where are you from? Well, I guess you can't hear me.
Me?
No, I see Kathy Van Gennigan. Well, Natalia. I'm kind to keep track of all these faces on my screen here. Okay. I think that's probably pretty much it. Okay, so here's the deal. Just a few things to get cleared up at the beginning of class. I start class on time at 10 a.m. I ask you, please, in respect with the other students, to be on time. I recommend that you do the homework Tuesday. So we have class Monday, do the homework Tuesday, take the quiz Wednesday, and then you're ready for class on Thursday. I really, really recommend doing the homeworks and quizzes. It seems like it's a kind of an onerous task, but that's how the material really sinks in. The homework is open book, the quiz is closed book. So if you have questions during class, I can try and take them. I usually prefer to wait till the end, just because it doesn't interrupt with the flow of the class. But if something's really urgent, let me know. This is my first time with a translator, so I'm going to try and make her life reasonably simple by speaking slowly. Okay, what else did I want to say? Okay, please close your eyes for a minute. We want to set our motivation for this class and for the whole idea of ACI classes. So get comfortable, take a couple of deep breaths, and feel what I'm about to say very strongly. I want to reach total enlightenment as soon as possible. I want to reach it in this very life. And when I do, I will free every living being from every pain of this suffering existence. This is why I'm going to take this course, which covers all the steps to enlightenment. So keep your eyes closed, and I'm going to read the Heart Sutra. I use that at the beginning of a course to help clear obstacles. I bow first to all enlightened beings and to every warrior saint. Once I heard this teaching. The conqueror was staying on Vulture's Peak in the keep of the king. With him was a great gathering of monks and a great gathering of warrior saints. At a certain moment, the conqueror went into deep meditation on the part of the teaching known as the awareness of the profound. At that moment, too, did the realized being, the great warrior, the Lord of power, loving eyes, see into this one deep practice, the practice of the perfection of wisdom. He saw perfectly that the 5 heaps, the 5 parts of a person, were empty of any nature of their own. Then, by the power of the enlightened one, the junior monk named Shariputra turned and asked this question of the great warrior, loving eyes, the realized one, the Lord of power. If any son or daughter of noble family hoped to follow the deep practice of the perfection of wisdom, what would they have to do? This, then, is the answer that the Lord of power, the realized one, the great warrior, loving eyes, gave to the junior monk named Shariputra. Here, Shariputra, is what any son or daughter of noble family should see, who hopes to follow the deep practice of the perfection of wisdom. See first, all 5 heaps, all 5 parts of a person are free of any essence of their own. Your body is empty. Emptiness is your body. Emptiness is nothing but your body, and your body is nothing but emptiness. The same is true of your feelings and your ability to discriminate between things and the other factors that make you up, and all the different kinds of awareness that you possess. All of them are empty. And thus we can say, Shariputra, that every existing thing is emptiness. Nothing has any characteristic of its own. Nothing ever begins. Nothing ever ends. Nothing is ever impure. Nothing ever becomes pure. Nothing ever gets less. And nothing ever becomes more. And thus we can say, Shariputra, that with emptiness, there is no body, there are no feelings, there is no ability to discriminate, there are none of the other factors that make you up, and there is no awareness. There are no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, nothing to see, nothing to hear, nothing to smell, nothing to taste, nothing to touch, and nothing to think of. There is no part of you that sees. There is no part of you that is aware that you are seeing. And this is true all the way up to the part of you that thinks and the part of you that is aware that you are thinking. There is no misunderstanding your world. There is no stopping this misunderstanding. And the same is true all the way up to your old age and death, and to stopping your old age and death. There is no suffering. There is no source of this suffering. There is no stopping this suffering. There is no path to stopping this suffering. There is no knowledge. There is nothing to reach. And there is nothing not to reach. Thus it is, Shariputra, the warrior saints have nothing to reach. And because of this, they're able to practice the perfection of wisdom and stay in this perfection of wisdom. This frees them from every obstacle in their mind and frees them from all fears. They go beyond all wrong ways of thinking and reach to the ultimate end of nirvana. All the enlightened beings of the past, the present, the future too, follow the same perfection of wisdom and thus bring themselves to perfect enlightenment, to the matchless state of a totally enlightened Buddha. Thus are they the sacred words of the perfection of wisdom, the sacred words of great knowledge, sacred words of the unsurpassable, sacred words that are equal to the one beyond all equal, sacred words that put a final end to every form of pain, sacred words you should know are true, for false they cannot be, sacred words of the perfection of wisdom, which here I speak for you. Tayata, gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. And thus it is, Shariputra, that great warrior saints must train themselves in the profound perfection of wisdom. With this, the conqueror stirred himself from his deep state of meditation. He turned to the great warrior, the realized one, loving eyes, the Lord of power, and blessed his words, saying, "True, true," he said, and true again. Thus it is, O son of noble family, and thus is it. One should follow the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have taught it. Every one of those gone thus rejoice in your words as I do. And when the conqueror had spoken thus, the junior monk Shariputra took joy, and the warrior, the realized one, loving eyes, the Lord of power, took joy as well. And all the assembled disciples took joy. And so did the entire world, with its gods and men and near gods and spirits too, take joy. All sang their praises of what the conqueror had spoken. For many of you, this doesn't mean much and could be very confusing, but it's the essence of all the practice you're going to be doing for the next 18 courses. So you can open your eyes now. So it's very important that we use this as a basis. I use it to clear obstacles to teaching courses, and it's worked pretty well so far. Okay. So traditionally, at the beginning of each class, we offer the mandala and the refuge and the wish. I can't really show you how to make the mudra. Anybody here, because of my Parkinson's? Yeah, thank you. You can't do it? Well, let me try. No, I can't do it really well. There you go. Thank you, Voriel. Make the mudra. Excellent. Okay, here's the mandala. Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of the Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. Now we go for refuge and the wish. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. For those of you new to ACI, you have a first memorization assignment. By the end of the course, by the end of the 11 classes, I strongly suggest that you have the offering, the mandala, and refuge and the wish memorized. You can memorize them in your language if that's easier. Okay, how many of you are taking the class for credit or actually going to do the homeworks and quizzes? If you can just raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excellent. Okay, I want to reemphasize. Don't get behind. The homeworks and the quizzes are really very simple. They're not hard. They come out of the reading. So you'll have to do the reading, which you'll get after class. But if you do the homework Tuesday night, do the quiz Wednesday, you're all ready to go for Thursday. I've just found in teaching this and taking the courses myself, it's very important to stay ahead, because once you get behind in something like this, it's easy just to forget it and say you'll get to it later. Almost every student I've ever had that says they'll get to it later never gets to it later. So the whole idea of the ACI courses was to train you to be teachers. So if you take that as your reason for taking the courses, then doing the homeworks and quizzes make even more sense. Let me hang on a minute. I forgot to start my timer. Okay, timer. There we go. Okay, so this course is called The Principal Teachings of Buddhism, the Steps to Buddhahood, the Lam Rim. And this is something that's a very basic introduction, but it covers all the parts of the path to reach total enlightenment. Ken Rinpoche, Geshe Michael's heart teacher, said that if he had one book he could have with him on his deserted island, the book that they wrote together, The Principal Paths of Buddhism, would be the book. So I urge, if you can read the English version of it, I urge you to get a copy of it. It's very easy reading, and it's a great resource for the next 18 courses. So class 1 today is an overview of the course, and it also begins with the main material. The ancient method of teaching in Buddhist monasteries, we try and follow to some degree. There's memorization of text, which I'm not going to ask you to do. There's the teacher explanation, which is what I'm doing. And then there's students' debate. We're going to go through debate in a much later course. But I urge you also, if you want, find fellow students and set up with Zoom. You can set up a study group and talk about the content of the material and study together. That's a great idea. We're going to be studying the teachings of a very famous teacher, Tsongkhapa. One of Geshe Michael's pet peeves is students that don't know the dates of the teachers. So if you're going to know, if you know we're taking a course from Tsongkhapa, his dates are 1357 to 1419. So it's important that you know that. It's considered impolite in our lineage to just say Tsongkhapa. So you usually say Lord or Master or just Tsongkhapa. He was born in the eastern part of Tibet, autonomous region, and studied with many great teachers of his time. He was famous for being extremely knowledgeable and fluent with his knowledge. He'd go from monastery to monastery debating the top scholars of his time. He had three very famous students. One was the start of the great abbot lineage, Gelwa Gunden Drup from 1391 to 1474, and the other two are Gelsabje and Kedrubje. There's an interesting story that Geshe likes to teach, and I think it's profound in how, back in the day, how people approached Tsongkhapa. He was giving a teaching, and the learned master, Gelsabje, one of his future students, he was considered a master of debate in Tibet in his time. He came to the teaching, and feeling he was at least as good a teacher as Tsongkhapa, he went up onto the stage and sat down next to him, uninvited. It was pretty bold, but he was pretty sure of himself. After a few minutes, he realized he got down off the stage, and a few minutes later, he started to make prostrations because he realized that Tsongkhapa knew far more than he did or ever would. He went on to be one of the Tsongkhapa lineage holders, and his books, Gelsabje's books, are studied and debated in monasteries to this day. Tsongkhapa wrote a great book, which is very famous in our lineage, The Great Steps on the Path, the Lamrim Chenmo. It contains the essence of 5 great subjects, which are in all the lineages of Buddhism. It's good to know these 5, so I'll go through them slowly. The perfection of wisdom, or Prajnaparamita in Sanskrit. The middle way, Madhyamika in Sanskrit. Vowed morality, Vinaya. Higher knowledge, Abhidharma Kosha. And Buddhist logic, Pramana. He wrote 3 versions of the Lamrim Chenmo. One was 1,000 pages long, one was 200 pages long, and one that was 10 pages long. And at the request of a student, he put it into a poem that's called The Three Principal Paths. Lamso Namsam. This is an entire Lamrim in 14 verses. The steps to total enlightenment in 14 verses. So if we study this perfectly, you study this carefully, we can get enlightened very quickly. Geshe Michael has some pet peeves about translation, and he says anybody who's translated this as the 3 principal parts of the path is incorrect. Path here means the concepts or realizations or state of mind through which we change our understanding of how the world works. We study these concepts to reach a higher understanding, not the parts of them. They're not a physical path as such. So again, if you listen to the Heart Sutra, it can be very confusing, especially if it's not in your language. There's a lot of hidden meaning in the Heart Sutra, which as you go through the 18 courses, will finally dissect and be able to understand what's going on. A very important part of this teaching is if you don't understand something, first of all, ask me about it. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And second, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I really strongly recommend that you memorize the 3 principal paths. I'm going to read it now as a transmission, but I found it very helpful in my studies that I have certain things memorized, and this is one of them. So again, close your eyes and listen carefully. I bow down to all the high and holy lamas. As far as I am able, I will explain the essence of all high teachings of the victors, the path that all their holy sons commend, the entry point for the fortunate seeking freedom. Listen with a pure mind, fortunate ones who have no craving for the pleasures of life and who, to make leisure and fortune meaningful, strive to turn their minds to the path which pleases the victors. There is no way to end without pure renunciation, this striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life. It is because of their hankering for life as well that beings are fettered, so seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life's not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail. In the cycle of suffering, stop desire for the future. When you have meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, when you begin to think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. Renunciation, though, can never bring the total bliss of matchless Buddhahood unless it is bound by the purest wish. And so the wise seek the high wish for enlightenment. They are swept along on 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds, hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self, smothered in the pitch black ignorance. In a limitless round they are born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what's happening to them. Try to develop this highest wish. You may master renunciation and the with, but unless you have the wisdom perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. Make efforts in ways then to perceive interdependence. A person's entered the path that pleases the Buddhas when, for all objects in the cycle or beyond, he sees that cause and effect can never fail, and when for him they lose all solid appearance. You've yet to realize the thought of the able as long as 2 ideas seem to you disparate: the appearance of things, infallible interdependence, and emptiness beyond taking any position. At some point, they no longer alternate, but come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold the object, and then your analysis with view is complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme, emptiness that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect, you'll never be stolen off by extreme views. When you have grasped as well as I the essential points of each of the 3 principal paths explained, then go into isolation, my son, make mighty efforts, and quickly win your ultimate wish. Okay, you can open your eyes. I find throughout the day that each one of these stanzas will pop up in my life, and having it memorized really makes it sweet to apply what I've learned throughout the day. As I said to some of you already, and to the new people who didn't hear this, I have Parkinson's. And sometimes I get to tremoring. So if you see that, don't be alarmed, and that's not an earthquake. But I want to tell you a little story about this. So we decided there was something wrong. I wasn't swinging my left arm when we walked. So we went to a neurologist, and she did some examination of me. And she said, I have Parkinson's. And my first thought was, oh. And my wife wasn't with me. She was in retreat. but I gave her a call. I got in my car. I cried for about a minute, and then I made up 4 jokes. And I'm going to tell you the jokes because that's how I've approached my disease. So here's the first. These may just make sense in English, but I'll tell them anyway. Here's the first joke. What's the favorite alcoholic beverage of a Parkinson's patient? Martini, shaken, not stirred. I think that's pretty funny, but this one's the best one. This is the one I made up right on the spot. How do you know if a Morse code operator has Parkinson's? They stutter. Morse code. Oh, well. Then the other 2 are fairly simple. Why are we always considered to be angry all the time? Because we're always shaking our fists. Why are we considered to be friendly all the time? Because we're always waving our hands. So why approach this with humor? My study, my training in Buddhism through the use of the 18 courses has allowed me to see that my Parkinson's is due to me. It's my fault, if there's any fault. The how I got it may have been all the organic chemicals I used in my time as a research scientist, but most important is why I got it. And the why I got it has to do with past lives and past karma. In my past lives, I was very inconsiderate and inconvenienced other people. Parkinson's for me is inconvenient. I can't type anymore. I can't do a lot of things I used to like to do, but it's an inconvenience. So in past lives, I inconvenienced many, many people, and now it's coming to ripen as Parkinson's. So the most important thing I can do is accept that it's coming from my past deeds and now do things that will prevent it from happening in the future, from being in my future. So the past is what makes our present, and our present is what creates our future. So the surest way for me to have a inconvenience like this in the future, in another life, is to be inconvenient to other people. So I strive very hard now. When someone asks me something, asks me a question about the practice, or asks me to look something up for them, instead of saying, no, I'll get to it, and not do it for a week, I stop what I'm doing and I make sure to get them what they need so I have not inconvenienced them. And I dedicate that to the future, my future life without Parkinson's. Every morning I get up without fail. I think there's no reason I could not be cured of Parkinson's this morning. My karma for Parkinson's could run out today. And every morning I get up thinking that, and that helps me structure my day around the inconvenience. I can still walk. I don't drive anymore. But it's the point of the story is it's my karma ripening. It's nobody else's fault. And it's because I inconvenience people. And if you understand karma and emptiness well enough, which you will by the end of these 18 courses, then you can approach the difficulties in your life with the same attitude. Am I happy I have Parkinson's? No. Am I glad I've got the training so I can purify it and get rid of it? Absolutely. So, okay. There's 3 principal realizations that lead to Buddhahood. These are the 3 principal paths: renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. That's something you should know right off the top of your head. Someone asks you the 3 principal paths, the 3 paths of Buddhism: renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. We're going to describe each one of these now. Renunciation. Can anybody give me a definition of renunciation? I don't think I can see everybody. No? Go ahead, Mariana.
I can try to explain is when you understand finally that nothing in this world can make you happy.
Right.
And,
All the
and you
things
stop
that we-
chasing the goals of this material life.
Right. In the West, we talk about years ago and maybe in high school or college, the person that dies with the most toys wins. That's a very consumer-oriented look at the world. If you have extra money, buy a boat, buy another house, buy a fancy car, have fancy clothes, eat at fancy restaurants, and that supposedly makes you look successful. But the real success isn't that, because you can't take any of that with you. The real success is to understand how the world works and what you need to do to make the world be the way you want it to be. So renunciation doesn't mean giving up the home life, doesn't mean you have to give up your family, have to go to a cave somewhere and meditate all day. Renunciation means do things with wisdom. It's okay to have a good computer and a nice car, but don't obsess over it. See them as the tools they are for your world, not a goal to have reached. So I have a 4-year-old computer that still has more power in it than I need, but I don't need to get in. Obsessing would be you need to have the newest Mac computer every year, or the newest phone, or the fanciest car. No, you don't. Well, I don't need those kind of things because I make do with what I have. Of course, that has something to do with my lovely wife, but that's another story. The secret to 46 years of marriage is to just say, yes, ma'am. So if you're waiting to understand how to be married for 46 years, most of the time she's right, but not all the time. Of course, I don't let her know that. So renunciation, what else do I want to say about renunciation? The point of renunciation is to come to grip with the fact that everything in this life is some form of suffering. So how can that be? You have a nice car, you have a nice house, you have a lovely husband and family. How can that be suffering? Well, there are many different lists in Buddhism, and I happen to be one of those people that like lists. So I'm just going to give you the short list of 3 for now, but there are many different lists of suffering. So consider the 3 sufferings. Suffering of suffering, that's the outright experience of pain, physical or mental. The suffering of change, the fact that all good things come to an end. My wife and I like to think about the idea of there's ice cream and then it's gone. It's great to have ice cream and then you finish the ice cream and it's gone. So that's suffering of change. Pervasive suffering, number 3. The subtle condition of change, the fact that we're immediately after we're born, we're on the process of dying. Now, as a kid, up through maybe, when did I start? Well, when my in-laws passed away. Up until then, I didn't really think about death. I didn't think about the fact I was dying as I was existing. Then my in-laws passed away in a small plane crash. And it made me think more and more about the death process. But I teach a 4th, so a second part of the 3rd. So you've got suffering of suffering, you've got suffering of change, you've got pervasive suffering as the fact that you're dying the minute you're born. And the second part of that is what I call the pervasive suffering of not knowing which karma is going to ripen next. I don't know which karma is going to ripen next. I never in my life thought I'd be 70 years old, not able to travel around the world, which is the plan my wife and I had. It never occurred to me 10 years. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2017. So I've had it now for 6 years. Never occurred to me. So what karma is going to ripen next? I don't have a way of knowing that. I look at it as a game. I think it's an adventure. what part's going to ripen next? It could be that my Parkinson's gone. I'd love to be the first person that could go on TV or on Zoom or whatever and describe the fact that my Parkinson's is gone. No one, to my knowledge, no one's ever been cured of Parkinson's. So that's my approach to death. I took maybe later on we can teach the death meditation module, which is a weekend over describing how we can approach death. I took that course and got into a death situation. I rolled my truck and I rolled it twice and it came up on all four wheels. And as it rolled, I went through the things in my mind that you're not supposed to worry about when there are certain things you're not supposed to worry about when you're in a near-death situation. And having taken the death meditation course, none of the things that I wasn't supposed to worry about popped in my mind. The only thing I thought of was, well, when the truck came up on all four wheels and was still running, I looked around. This was at Diamond Mountain. I looked around and said, if I've died, then my Tushita heaven looks a heck of a lot like Diamond Mountain. I didn't get upset. I wasn't worried about whether I told my wife I loved her. I hadn't left the house in an argument. I had nothing on my mind that would cause me to hesitate about dying. That's the power of these teachings. If you really take this to heart, you'll develop the ability to handle life situation in such a way that they're still terrible, they're horrible, but you put them in perspective. And that's the hardest, perhaps the hardest lesson to learn. In another sense, the easiest, because once you accept how karma and emptiness work, how everything in your life is a result of your past deeds, everything, then you have a responsibility. It's nobody else's fault but your own. So why blame anybody else? It's Master Shantideva, who we'll be studying later, said if you can do something about it, do. And if you can't, what's the point of worrying about it? That's very sage advice. Bodhicitta. Oh, well, let's go back to renunciation for a minute. Having discussed with this life doesn't mean you can't have money and luxury, but we're going to get soon to how that works, to where you can have some of these things. It's called doing things with wisdom. And we'll discuss that in much greater detail down the road. Bodhicitta, that's literally translated as Buddha mind, how they think. The real powerful wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all living beings. That's a whole nother story. If you're a Mahayana practitioner, which is the tradition we follow at ACI, then you're doing all this so that you can reach enlightenment, so you can bring all the living beings in your world to their enlightenment and have them be free from suffering. That's our goal, to become bodhisattvas. Bodhisattva has bodhicitta in his heart. The third one, so we've got renunciation, we've got bodhicitta, and we've got correct view. Correct view is knowing that what you reap what you sow. So in the English language, I like to teach, when I have students say it's my karma, but there's no if, and, or but. It is your karma, period. So I look at it this way. Instead of saying it's my karma, but I say it's my karma, so. In the English language, we have a word called so. It's S-O-W. And so my karma so would mean I'm sowing the karmic seeds for my future enlightenment. So it's not my karma, but, period. If you find yourself saying that, what you're saying is, yeah, karma works sometimes, but other times it doesn't work. You can't have it two ways. Either you believe in karma and emptiness, or you don't. I can't emphasize that enough. Karma and emptiness. Karma and emptiness. Emptiness and karma. We're going to talk about emptiness in a bit. Knowing you cannot ever get a good result from a wrong deed. It may look that way, but the laws of karma clearly indicate this cannot ever be the case. Lying to get something good, not lying. Lying is not the cause of getting a good thing. A good thing is pleasant. One cannot cause the other. You can't do something bad and get a good result. Once you understand deeply this concept, you will change your behavior. So the book we're going to be using is written from notes taken by Geshe Michael's Lama, Ken Rinpoche, from a teaching given by perhaps one of the greatest contemporary Buddhist teachers in our time, a gentleman called Pabonka Rinpoche, who lived from 1878 to 1941. It's a commentary on the three principal paths of Buddhism. I challenge you, whenever you hear a set of dates, do the math. So Pabonka Rinpoche was 22, 41, so he is 63. That's not that old for that time frame. But back in the day, Jezon Kapa was 43 and 19, he was 62. Think of living to the age of 60, 65, 70 back in 1350s. They didn't have modern medicine. They didn't have doctors you could just drive down to and get help from. How did these guys and men and women live to 70 or 80 years old? I don't know. I think it's remarkable. Okay, what else do I want to talk about here? Jezon Kapa had a student called Nangwang Drakpa. He's not as famous as the others, who studied hard and went out to the Eastern Tibet Autonomous Region and founded 108 monasteries in his lifetime. 108 monasteries. That's just miraculous. He asked Jezon Kapa for advice, and so he wrote the 14 verses in a letter to him, and they turned out to become an incredibly famous part of Buddhism. So you have an opening meditation. Every class has a meditation for 5 minutes afterwards. I strongly urge you to do the meditations. In fact, you have to do the meditation and you have to record the time in order for your homework to be accepted. So this first meditation is an analytical meditation on renunciation. Bring to mind and analyze whether all the things are suffering and review the three sufferings. If you do not reach a level of disgust with this life, with this meditation, then I'd hesitate to say this course is not for you. If you decide life is suffering and you want to be free from it, then stay with the course and resolve to become a student of the Dharma. It's important here that you remember what's called the three problems of the pot, a teaching by Lord Buddha. Listening to a teaching but not paying close attention or not being open-minded is like a pot with a lid on. The teaching cannot flow into your mind. Number two, listening to a teaching with wrong motivation, being part of a group and doing it for only social reasons, that's a pot full of grime. Listening but not studying, retaining the teachings is like a pot without a bottom. Lastly, once you decide to become a student, you need to decide what appeals to you the most, because there are three scopes of students for the Buddhism. The lesser scope. Now, it's important when I say lesser, I'm not saying they're dumb or anything. I'm saying their goals are lesser. The goals for a lesser scope just want to escape lower rebirth, so you change your behavior. Medium scope, you not only want to escape future lower rebirth, but you want to escape rebirth at all. In the greater scope, you don't want a rebirth. You want to escape. You don't want a lower rebirth. You wish to escape rebirth, but you want to do it for the benefit of all sentient beings. This seems pretty confusing to those of you who are new to the subject. For those of you that have taken several ACI courses, this is a great start to review to see how much of what you learned in the past is retained and kept with you. I know the other thing I wanted to say, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And if you don't understand something, like for instance, the Heart Sutra, put it on what I call the back burner. It's like on the stove, you put something on the back burner to stay warm over low heat. You don't give up, you don't drop Buddhism because you didn't understand the Heart Sutra. You say, there will become a time where I will understand it. I'm just going to wait patiently till that time occurs. There are many things when I started Buddhism, taking Buddhism classes, that confused me. Like this idea of total enlightenment. Why is there the term total enlightenment? How could there be anything but partial enlightenment? Well, we're going to get into that. But there are different schools have different descriptions of what they believe enlightenment is. Total enlightenment is the enlightenment of a Mahayana practitioner, where they take into account the benefit of helping all sentient beings be free from their suffering instead of just themselves. So when I first started these courses, I kept seeing this term total enlightenment, which just confused me because there's enlightenment. It's like in the movie Princess Bride when Miracle Max says, well, he's just almost dead. No, he's either dead or he's not dead. He can't be almost dead. How many of you have seen The Princess Bride? No? Oh, movie night tonight. Go online and download, see if you can get a copy of Princess Bride.
Mostly Dead all day.
There you go. Thank you. Mostly Dead all day. It is a wonderful, wonderful book. I encourage you to read the book. It's quite funny. And it's a wonderful movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. Okay, so that's pretty much what I have for class. It's a short class today. Sometimes the classes go for the full 2 hours and sometimes they don't. So this is one of those instances where it doesn't. If you have questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them for you now.
Let's see.
Kathy, you need to smile. No questions? No, come on, there's got to be some questions.
You can tell us something about how we intensifying the renunciation, how to obtaining it easily.
Okay, let's see how we can do that. Fortunately,
Perhaps something from your experience.
my renunciation was, I had a renunciation pretty early in my professional career. I could have either, I was a research biochemist. I worked at the University of Arizona for 23 years doing research on a variety of subjects. I could have made a lot of money by going into public business biochemistry, like pharmaceuticals. But I had no desire to be famous. I just had a desire to enjoy what I was doing. My renunciation was very simple. I was fortunate enough to love I had one job for 6 months, which I hated. All the rest of my jobs, I couldn't get up early enough or stay late enough to work. I loved what I did. At Diamond Mountain, I just worked 24 hours and slept as little as I could because I just loved trying to build that for Geshe Michael and Lama Christie. It was never an onerous task. So find a job you like. If you have a job you don't like, well, that makes renunciation a little more. Then your renunciation is, how can I turn that job into something I like going to? And there's got to be a way, either that or get a new job. But renunciation for me, I started to collect watches. Now this seems pretty trivial, but I started to collect watches. And I have a couple of watches that I really, really like. But renunciation for me was stop collecting watches because that's a needless distraction. Why do you need more than one watch? What are you going to do? Wear one on your ankles and your other arm and have 4 timepieces? That makes no sense. So that seems pretty trivial. What's another good example in my life for renunciation? Well, like I said earlier, I never really had the striving for the good things of cyclic life. For instance, a mundane car, we buy, the only time I bought this is a good example. This is a great example. The only time I ever bought a brand new vehicle was when I bought my Tacoma truck, which I absolutely loved. Next to my lovely wife and her parents, the thing I treasured the most in my computer, the thing I treasured the most was my truck. And I rolled it and destroyed it. So rather than get morose about it, I realized what it was, my karma ripening, and I went and got another truck. Now, my wife made me get a 4-speed, 4-cylinder truck, which was a waste of time. And I ended up trading that in to get another V6 automatic. But so how does my truck become an example of renunciation? When I rolled it and made it completely unusable, it was unusable. I didn't get upset about it. I didn't moan about it. I didn't think it was terrible. I just thought, well, I'm going to need to replace it with some kind of vehicle. Now, if I didn't have renunciation, I would have thought, I've got to get out and get a brand new truck just like it so that I can be happy about this truck again. But I didn't. I said, I need a vehicle that'll help me run Diamond Mountain. If that's another truck, great. Doesn't have to be brand new, just has to be a truck to help me with my job. Having the biggest television, having the best cars, wearing the best clothes, eating fine food. I never had any of that. So maybe I was born with renunciation, which is a bold thing to say, but I think I could actually say that. So what to do as an individual? Does this mean you quit your job? No, it means try and make your job be as enjoyable as possible. Does this mean you leave your family and go to a cave? No, yeah, I mean, you could do that, but the important thing with renunciation, and this is a really important point, is you have to do it without regret. So for instance, I have 3 watches still that I really like. I don't wear them anymore because I have a phone. But I have one watch that's one Speedmaster chronograph, like the watch the astronauts wore on the moon. That's my prized possession. I want to give that away, but I haven't yet because I still have attachment to it. So I don't have renunciation concerning that watch, but that's a fairly small thing to be not have renunciation on. Does that help at all?
Yes, thank you.
Just reflect on your life. Reflect where you think you have to have something. You have to have that new computer. You have to have that new phone. So when you go to work, everybody goes, wow, you have a new Apple phone. Those things cost $1,500 versus a phone. I have an Android phone that costs $150. If I lose it, who cares? If I had a $1,500 phone and lost it, I'd be frantic. So my level of renunciation in phones is I have an inexpensive phone. What other renunciation? No, can't think of any other good examples. When class ends, I'll think of a half dozen. So for your meditation, just stop and think for 5 minutes. Where's your level of renunciation? Do you have something you're craving that you need to have no matter what, that you do something wrong to get? That's not having renunciation. So instead of looking, I guess I changed my instruction for the meditation. Think about where you failed in renunciation and think where you've succeeded. Think where you've done something that you can say is renunciation and on your path out of here. We often say, think about the things that are difficult, like the bad karma instead of the good karma. I like to think more on the positive side of things. It doesn't mean there isn't such a thing as bad karma, but why dwell on that? So for instance, my illness. There's a good example of renunciation, my illness. I could be dwelling on the fact that I use chemicals that damage my brain. I could be dwelling on whose fault it is and blame them. I could be looking into lawsuits. Or I could say, okay, I have Parkinson's. It doesn't mean it can't go away. What do I need to do to take care of that? Am I taking medication? Certainly. Did the medication not work initially and now it's working? Absolutely. Is that some sort of miracle? To me, it is. Another example of, well, this is one that's actually ripening almost daily for me. I'm writing what will probably be my last book, and it's about a technical subject about ballistic missile defense. And I have over 15 gigabytes of research information. And I've read through many of the papers, and they don't have information I'm interested in. Then as I'm finishing the rough draft, I go back into one of these papers and I find a very important piece of information. So was that information there all along, or did my karma ripen for me to project it? That's the kind of thing, that has nothing to do with renunciation, but it has everything to do with the expectation of karma ripening. So how do I look at that and how can I make that happen more and more? It's a convenience for me to find this information. So if you were to ask me something about Buddhism, I would stop what I'm doing, I would look it up, and if to the best of my ability, give you the answer as soon as I could, because I don't want to inconvenience you about something like that. And that's ripening now for me to have things, to have me get a hold of data. For instance, there's 891 pages of a document that was highly classified until I asked for it to be declassified, which I thought would take years. And it turned out that it was declassified that day because it was no longer, the individual reading it thought it was no longer necessary to be classified. So because I didn't inconvenience others, that I look at as that ripening for not to be inconvenienced by not being able to get to this document. Trivial, maybe to some people, very important to me. So I have things ripening in my lifetime within weeks of my wanting things to get done. So it is possible, because you set the conditions, to have that karma ripen quickly. Now, I have a dear friend who's been looking for a spiritual partner for 20 years, and she wants the karma to ripen more quick, good karma to ripen quickly. But if good karma ripens quickly, so would bad karma. So if you kill a mosquito, you crush a mosquito. If you want that bad karma to ripen as quickly as you want good karma to ripen, you might have a heart attack. So you gotta think about what you're doing when you want carbon reduction quickly. Kathy, you're frowning. Kathy, can you smile for me? There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Your face lights up. I have a fairly bland face now with my Parkinson's. My wife says I go around looking like this. So if you meet me or talk to me on Zoom, if I look like I'm uninterested, it's just because that's part of Parkinson's. You look bland. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to teach this class. We're going to do a dedication now, so close your eyes for a minute. Here's our dedication. By the goodness of what I have just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. Thank you for the opportunity to teach this class to you. I believe my email is, as you have access to my email. I'm using a different email than my regular email. I think my email is Sumati December 20 and at gmail.com. If you have questions, I encourage you to ask me. I can set up a Zoom meeting if you need it. My role here is to be as available to you as I can to help you stay with the courses and learn the way to make your life exceedingly pleasant. So take care, and we will see you next, let's see what today's, Thursday at 10. Do your homework and quiz and do your meditations, please. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
So Svetlana, was that
Thank
too?
you, teacher Sumati.
That was good? Good.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. Teacher Sumati.
Okay, so Svetlana, that worked out. I'm glad to hear that. Please let me know if I'm going too fast. Okay, now how do I leave? I just click on this and I'm gone. Leave the meeting. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.